The moment Paige Oliver stepped through the glass doors of Moonlight Weddings and Events, she knew she had just seconds to impress Chloe Harper, the woman who might hold the key to her career salvation. With a portfolio tucked under one arm and determination straightening her spine, Paige approached the reception desk where a stylish blonde scrutinized her with obvious skepticism. "You're the emergency replacement planner." Chloe's perfectly arched eyebrow conveyed more doubt than her words. Paige nodded confidently, despite the flutter of nerves in her stomach. "Paige Oliver. I specialize in destination weddings and last-minute miracles." That last part wasn't entirely true, but her former boss's sudden bankruptcy had left Paige desperate, and Chloe's call about their star planner breaking her leg had seemed like fate. "My sister's wedding is in 8 weeks, in Santorini. It's complicated." Chloe sighed, gesturing for Paige to follow her into a sleek conference room where photos of spectacular weddings lined the walls. "The bride is lovely but indecisive. The groom is accommodating to a fault, and my brother who's financing the whole affair is, well, protective doesn't begin to cover it. I'm good with difficult family dynamics," Paige assured her, setting her portfolio on the polished table. "And I've coordinated 3 Santorini weddings in the past 2 years." Chloe flipped through Paige's work, her expression softening. "These are impressive, but I should warn you this isn't just any wedding. My brother takes his responsibilities very seriously. He'll want daily updates, budgetary breakdowns for every decision, and will probably question your every move." "I'm not easily intimidated," Paige said with more confidence than she felt. In reality, she was drowning in student loan debt and had exactly 2 months' rent left in her savings. This job wasn't just desirable, it was essential. "Good." Chloe closed the portfolio with a decisive snap. "Because you start tomorrow. The bride and groom are coming for a meeting at 9. My brother might join remotely. He's in Tokyo closing some massive deal." The next morning, Paige arrived an hour early, reviewing the existing wedding file with growing concern. The bride, Emma Harper, had changed her mind about everything from flowers to food at least 3 times. The venue was secured, thankfully, but almost nothing else was finalized. With only 8 weeks remaining, Paige would need to work miracles. At precisely 9 o'clock, Emma Harper fluttered into the conference room, her fiancé Thomas Chen following with an indulgent smile. Chloe introduced Paige, explaining the unexpected change in wedding planners. "Oh no." Emma's eyes widened in alarm. "Does this mean we're starting over?" "Matthew will be so upset if there are more delays." "Matthew?" Paige inquired, flipping through her notes. "My brother," Chloe explained. "He's calling now," interrupted a voice from the conference phone that had silently connected. "Sorry I'm late. Tokyo traffic is absurd." The deep voice commanded attention immediately, and Paige straightened instinctively. "Matt, we're just getting started," Chloe said. "This is Paige Oliver, our new coordinator, Lee's replacement. Miss Oliver." The voice was cool, professional. "I understand you're stepping in rather late in the process. What makes you qualified to salvage my sister's wedding?" Paige felt her cheeks flush at the directness of the question, but kept her voice steady. "Mr. Harper, I specialize in challenging timelines. Your sister deserves her dream wedding, and I intend to deliver exactly that on time and within budget." A brief pause followed before he responded. "Ambitious. I appreciate confidence, Miss Oliver, but this isn't just any wedding. It's Emma's one special day." "Every wedding I plan is someone's one special day," Paige countered. "That's why I never take shortcuts." Another pause. "Fair enough. I'll be back in New York next week. We'll discuss details then." For the next 2 hours, Paige guided Emma through decisive choices, gently steering her away from endless options toward concrete decisions. By the end of the meeting, they had confirmed the florist, finalized the menu, and selected bridesmaids' dresses. "You're magic," Emma exclaimed, hugging Paige impulsively. "I've been stressing about these decisions for months." After Emma and Thomas left, Chloe regarded Paige with newfound respect. "I'm impressed. And more importantly, Matt didn't interrupt again, which means he approves. That's rare." "Is he always so?" Paige searched for a diplomatic word. "Intense, controlling, overprotective," Chloe laughed. "Yes, yes, and definitely yes, but his heart's in the right place. Our parents died when Emma was just 16. Matt was 24 and immediately stepped in as her guardian, putting his own life on hold." Paige nodded, understanding blooming. "That explains a lot." "Just wait until you meet him in person," Chloe said with a knowing smile. "He's even more intimidating face to face." The following week passed in a whirlwind of vendor calls, contract negotiations, and daily updates emailed to Matthew Harper, who responded with terse acknowledgments and occasional questions about contingency plans. Paige found herself wondering about the man behind these efficient messages, clearly detail-oriented and protective, but also strangely distant. On Friday afternoon, Paige was deep in conversation with the destination photographer when the office door swung open. Her eyes remained fixed on her laptop screen as she finalized details. "So, we're confirmed for the sunset session on the cliffside, but we need a backup location in case of wind. The forecast that time of year can be unpredictable, and I'd suggest the private cove at the south end of the property." The deep voice startled her. Paige looked up to find herself staring at possibly the most striking man she'd ever encountered. Tall with broad shoulders, he wore a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that emphasized his athletic build. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it, and his eyes, a penetrating blue-gray, were currently fixed on her with unsettling intensity. "I'll call you back," Paige told the photographer, hanging up quickly. She stood, extending her hand. "You must be Matthew Harper." "Matt," he corrected, his handshake firm but brief. "You must be the miracle worker who's gotten my sister to actually make decisions." Paige smiled. Emma just needed a narrower range of choices. Analysis paralysis is common with brides. He studied her for a long moment. "Your emails are impressively thorough. I appreciate attention to detail." "I appreciate that you appreciate it," Paige responded. "Most clients find my spreadsheets excessive." A hint of a smile touched his lips. Clearly, those clients have never properly valued a good spreadsheet. For the next hour, they reviewed the wedding plans. Paige was surprised to discover Matt had actually visited the venue personally, taking detailed notes on everything from the kitchen facilities to the sunrise visibility from the ceremony location. "You're certainly thorough," she commented, as he questioned the backup generator capacity. "Emma deserves perfect," he said simply. "And perfect requires preparation. Perfect also requires flexibility," Paige countered. "Some of the most magical wedding moments are the unplanned ones." Matt's eyebrow rose slightly. "That sounds suspiciously like hope for the best disguised as wedding wisdom." "Not at all. It's plan for everything, then embrace the unexpected." Paige smiled. "A rainbow after a brief shower, a shooting star during the first dance. You can't schedule those, but they become the moments everyone remembers." Matt leaned back in his chair, studying her with newfound interest. "You're not what I expected. Is that good or bad?" "Undetermined." But his eyes held a warmth that contradicted his noncommittal words. Their meeting ran late, with Matt insisting on reviewing every contract. When they finally finished, Paige was surprised to see it was past 8 o'clock. "I've kept you well past office hours," he said, glancing at his watch. "Let me make it up to you with dinner." "That's not necessary, I insist. There's a good place around the corner. We can continue discussing the wedding." The restaurant turned out to be not a good place, but one of the most exclusive dining establishments in Manhattan, where the maitre d' greeted Matt by name and led them to a prime corner table without checking his reservation list. "Come here often?" Paige asked dryly as a sommelier immediately appeared. "When I'm in New York," Matt replied. After ordering wine, he added, "which isn't as often as I'd like. My work keeps me traveling." "What exactly do you do?" Paige realized she knew almost nothing about him beyond his devotion to his sisters. Matt's expression grew guarded. "I'm in acquisitions." "Like art acquisitions?" A smile flickered across his face. "Like company acquisitions?" "I identify undervalued businesses with potential, acquire them, restructure, and either integrate them into our existing portfolio or position them for profitable resale." "Sounds ruthless," Paige observed. "Efficient," he corrected. "Nothing stays stagnant in business. Companies either grow or die. Sometimes they need new vision to survive. And you provide that vision when necessary." Matt changed the subject. "What about you? How did you get into wedding planning?" Paige explained her background in hospitality management and how a college internship at a luxury resort had introduced her to the world of destination weddings. "I loved seeing how the right location could transform an ordinary ceremony into something magical. After that, I was hooked." "You speak about it with genuine passion," Matt noted. "That's rare. Isn't everyone passionate about their work?" "No." His answer was immediate and certain. "Most people just do jobs. They count hours until weekends and days until vacations. And you? I've never understood that mentality. If something's worth doing, it's worth doing completely." As dinner progressed, Paige found herself increasingly intrigued by the complex man across the table. Beneath his controlled exterior, Matt revealed flashes of dry humor and surprising sensitivity, especially when speaking about his sisters. "Emma was just starting high school when our parents died," he explained over dessert. "She needed stability, normalcy. Chloe was in college, but Emma, she was still finding herself. It couldn't have been easy stepping into a parental role so young," Matt shrugged. "We did what was necessary. Family comes first. But you put your own life on hold." "I redirected it," he corrected. "My priorities shifted." By the time they parted ways outside the restaurant, Paige realized they'd barely discussed the wedding during their 3-hour dinner. More surprisingly, she found herself looking forward to their next meeting with an anticipation that had nothing to do with professional obligations. The following weeks brought frequent interactions with Matt. Though he continued traveling London, Singapore, Dubai, he insisted on video conferences to review wedding details, calls that increasingly drifted toward personal conversations. Paige learned about his childhood dream of being a marine biologist, his habit of reading historical biographies to unwind, and his preference for mountains over beaches, except for Emma's wedding, of course. In turn, she shared stories about growing up as an only child with travel writer parents, her collection of snow globes from places she hoped to visit someday, and her disastrous first attempt at planning a destination wedding involving an iguana, a wedding cake, and a very understanding bride. 2 weeks before the wedding, Matt requested an in-person meeting at his office to finalize details before they all departed for Santorini. Paige arrived at the impressive Manhattan skyscraper, expecting to be directed to a modest office within a larger company. Instead, the security guard nodded respectfully upon hearing her name. "Miss Oliver for Mr. Harper. Express elevator, please." He gestured toward a private elevator requiring keycard access, which an attendant operated for her. "Floor 68, the attendant said with practiced politeness. When the doors opened, Paige stepped into a stunning reception area with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing panoramic views of the city. The sleek, modern space featured a subtle logo on the wall, Harper Global. A polished receptionist smiled warmly. "Miss Oliver, Mr. Harper is expecting you." "This way, please." As Paige followed her through the expansive office space, she noticed every person they passed regarded her with obvious curiosity. The receptionist finally stopped at an imposing set of double doors, knocking lightly before opening them. Matt's office was unexpectedly understated given the grandeur of the building, spacious but functional, with simple furnishings and the same spectacular views. He rose from behind his desk as she entered, his smile genuine. "Paige, thank you for coming uptown." He gestured toward a comfortable seating area rather than the formal conference table. "Your office is not what I expected," Paige said carefully, still processing the scale of what she was seeing. "Too boring?" Matt asked, misinterpreting her surprise. "Chloe's always telling me to get something other than gray furniture." "No, it's just—" Paige hesitated. "You never mentioned you had your own company." Matt looked momentarily confused, then understanding dawned. "Ah, I suppose we never explicitly discussed it." He seemed almost uncomfortable. "Does it matter?" "Of course not," Paige said quickly. "I just feel a bit foolish for not realizing sooner. Harper Global is significant. It's just a company," Matt said dismissively, though they both knew it was far more than that. Harper Global was one of the largest private investment firms in the country, with interests spanning multiple industries and continents. Their meeting proceeded professionally, but Paige found herself distracted by this new information. Why hadn't he mentioned his position? Was he testing her somehow? Or was this simply irrelevant to their wedding planning relationship? As they finished reviewing the final travel arrangements, Matt's assistant interrupted with an urgent call. He apologized to Paige, taking the call at his desk while she pretended not to listen. The one-sided conversation revealed a very different Matthew Harper than the one she'd come to know: decisive, commanding, and clearly accustomed to authority. "Counterattack with 40% and performance incentives," he directed the caller. "If they balk, remind them the Westridge deal collapsed last quarter when they played hardball. No, that's not negotiable. I expect confirmation by morning." When he rejoined her, Matt seemed to have shifted back to wedding mode seamlessly. "Sorry about that. Where were we?" "Almost finished," Paige said, gathering her papers. "Just one question: why didn't you tell me who you really are?" Matt's expression grew cautious. "What do you mean? You're not just in acquisitions. You run one of the largest investment firms in the country." Paige kept her tone neutral. "It seems like relevant information when you're financing a high-end destination wedding." "Would it have changed how you planned Emma's wedding?" "No, of course not." "Then it wasn't relevant." Matt's voice remained calm, but Paige noticed a new tension in his shoulders. "I've found people behave differently when they know my financial situation. They either want something from me or they're intimidated by me. Neither makes for genuine interaction." "So you were testing me?" Paige couldn't keep the hint of hurt from her voice. "No," Matt said quickly. "With you, I just—" He paused, seemingly searching for words. "I enjoyed being seen for myself, not my net worth. It's surprisingly rare." The honesty in his admission deflated Paige's indignation. "I can understand that. But secrets don't make for the best foundation in any relationship, professional or otherwise." Matt studied her face. "You're right, I apologize." The simple admission surprised her. From what she'd gathered, Matthew Harper rarely apologized for anything. "Apology accepted," Paige said. But no more surprises before Santorini, please. Wedding planning has enough unexpected elements without adding secret identities. No more surprises, Matt agreed, a smile softening his features. Though I should warn you that my pilot is terrified of dogs, so if you're planning to bring a surprise puppy on the private jet. Private jet? Paige's eyes widened. Matt's smile grew. Too late for that particular surprise, I'm afraid. Did you think we were flying commercial to Greece, with 14 people and 6 trunks of wedding supplies? 3 days later, Paige found herself aboard the most luxurious aircraft she'd ever seen, trying to maintain professional composure while marveling at the plush leather seating, full bedroom suite, and dedicated staff attending to their every need. Emma, Thomas, and the wedding party were traveling separately the following day, leaving this flight for the advance team. Paige, Matt, Chloe, the photographer, and 2 assistants. The early arrival would give them time to conduct final venue inspections and resolve any last-minute issues before the bride arrived. "Is this your first time on a private jet?" Matt asked, settling into the seat beside her after they reached cruising altitude. "Is it that obvious?" Paige laughed. "You've been taking pictures of the bathroom for the last 5 minutes. It has a shower. On a plane," Paige defended herself. "That's objectively impressive." Matt's smile reached his eyes, creating crinkles at the corners that Paige found unreasonably appealing. "Wait until you see the villa I've arranged for us." The flight passed comfortably, with Paige reviewing wedding details while Matt handled business calls and emails. Occasionally, he would look up from his work to offer her coffee or suggest she rest, his consideration touching in its simplicity. As night fell over the Atlantic, most of their small group retreated to sleep. Paige remained awake, too keyed up about the approaching wedding to rest. She was surprised when Matt emerged from the conference area and dropped into the seat across from her, loosening his tie. "Can't sleep?" he asked. Paige shook her head. "Pre-wedding jitters, not usually this bad, but this one feels important, because of the complexity, partly," she admitted, "and partly because—" Paige hesitated. Because it matters to you," she said simply. "I've seen how much you care about giving Emma this perfect day." Matt's expression softened. "Thank you for understanding that," he paused. "Most people think I'm just controlling." "Oh, you're definitely controlling," Paige teased, "but your heart's in the right place." Their conversation drifted from wedding details to more personal territories, favorite travel destinations, childhood memories, future aspirations. In the dim cabin lighting with everyone else asleep, an unexpected intimacy developed between them. "What about you?" Matt asked as their discussion turned to family. "Do you want the whole package, someday marriage, children, the works?" "Yes," Paige answered without hesitation, "though my track record in relationships suggests I might be better at planning weddings than participating in them." "How so?" She shrugged. "My last serious boyfriend complained I was too focused on my career. The one before that couldn't handle my travel schedule." "Sounds like a compatibility issue, not a you issue," Matt observed. "The right person wouldn't see your ambition as a problem." "What about you?" Paige countered, curious. "Chloe mentioned you haven't seriously dated anyone in years." A shadow crossed Matt's face. "Building Harper Global required certain sacrifices." "That's not really an answer." "No, it's not," he smiled ruefully. "The truth is more complicated. After our parents died, Emma needed stability. Relationships introduce variables, uncertainties. So you just opted out of that part of life." "I prioritized," Matt corrected. "Emma, the company, responsibilities first, everything else second." "But Emma's getting married now," Paige pointed out gently. "She's building her own life." Matt was quiet for a long moment. Yes, she is. He looked at Paige with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. Perhaps it's time for certain priorities to shift. Before Paige could respond, the pilot announced they were beginning their descent to Santorini, breaking the moment between them. As preparation for landing began, Matt returned to his original seat, leaving Paige wondering about the meaning behind his words and the undeniable connection forming between them. Santorini greeted them with breathtaking beauty. The iconic white buildings with blue domes set against the backdrop of the impossibly blue Aegean Sea. Their convoy of luxury vehicles wound through narrow streets to the private villa complex Matt had secured for the wedding party, perched on the cliffs with unobstructed views of the caldera. "This is beyond stunning," Paige breathed as they toured the main venue space, an expansive terrace where Emma and Thomas would exchange vows against the backdrop of the sunset. "It gets better at dusk," Matt said, watching her reaction with evident pleasure. "The light here is unlike anywhere else in the world." The next days passed in a flurry of activity. Local vendors arrived for final confirmations, the wedding party conducted rehearsals, and every detail was scrutinized and perfected. Through it all, Paige found herself increasingly aware of Matt's presence, his steadying influence when problems arose, his genuine delight in Emma's happiness, and most disconcertingly, the way his eyes sought hers across crowded rooms. The night before the wedding, after a successful rehearsal dinner, Paige retreated to the small office she'd set up in a quiet corner of the villa to review her final checklist. She was so absorbed in her work that she didn't hear the door open. "You should be celebrating with everyone else," Matt's voice startled her. Paige looked up to find him leaning against the doorframe, jacket discarded and sleeves rolled up, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. "Just making sure tomorrow goes perfectly," she explained, gesturing to her meticulous notes. "It will," Matt said with unexpected certainty, "because you've planned it." Paige felt warmth spread through her at the simple vote of confidence. "That might be the nicest thing you've said to me, Matthew Harper." "I doubt that," he replied, entering the room and perching on the edge of her desk. "I've said plenty of nice things to you, usually followed by a request for additional contingency plans," she teased. Matt laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "Fair point, but I've been thinking. A dangerous pastime, indeed." His smile faded into something more serious. "What happens after tomorrow?" Paige's breath caught at the question. "The newlyweds go on their honeymoon, everyone else returns home, and wedding planners start on their next event." "That sounds remarkably impersonal." "It's how the business works," Paige said carefully, unsure where he was heading with this line of questioning. Matt leaned slightly closer. "And if someone wanted to disrupt that business model, I'm not following." "After tomorrow," Matt said slowly, "Emma will be married. My obligations as her guardian will be officially complete, and I find myself thinking about what you said on the plane about priorities shifting." Paige's heart raced as she realized what he might be suggesting. "Matt, I'm not good at this," he interrupted, running a hand through his hair in a rare display of uncertainty. "Relationships, personal connections, they've always been secondary for me, but with you—" He paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. "With you, I find myself wanting to change that equation." "What are you saying exactly?" Paige needed clarity, not implications. "I'm saying I'd like to see you after this wedding is over, not as my sister's wedding planner but as yourself. As someone I've come to admire tremendously." Matt's gaze held hers. "Someone I can't stop thinking about." The confession hung between them, altering the atmosphere in the small room. Paige felt simultaneously elated and cautious. "We barely know each other," she said softly. "I disagree," Matt countered. I know you're brilliant at your job. I know you care deeply about creating perfect moments for others. I know you drink your coffee black but add cinnamon when you're stressed. I know you're the first person I want to talk to when I have news, good or bad." Paige couldn't help smiling at his observations. "That's a good start." "Just a start," Matt agreed. "I'd like the chance to learn more. Much more." Before Paige could respond, a commotion erupted in the main villa, Emma's voice calling for both of them. The moment between them fractured as duty called. "Bridesmaid emergency," Paige guessed, already gathering her emergency kit. "We should." "Go," Matt finished, though his expression suggested their conversation was far from over. "But this isn't finished." "After tomorrow," Paige promised. The wedding day dawned, perfect clear skies, gentle breeze, ideal temperatures. Paige moved through the villa with practiced efficiency, coordinating vendors, calming nerves, and ensuring every detail matched Emma's vision. She caught glimpses of Matt throughout the morning, directing staff, checking security, consulting with the officiant, but their paths didn't cross directly until just before the ceremony. She was making final adjustments to Emma's veil in the bridal suite when a knock sounded at the door. "Decent." Matt's voice called. "Come in," Emma replied, excitement radiating from her. "What do you think?" Matt stepped into the room, impeccable in his tuxedo, but Paige barely noticed his formal attire. What captured her attention was his expression as he saw his sister, a complex mixture of pride, love, and bittersweet emotion. "You look just like Mom," he said softly. Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Really?" "Absolutely. She would be so proud of you." Matt crossed to embrace his sister carefully, mindful of her dress. "You're beautiful, Em." Paige slipped toward the door, feeling like an intruder on this private family moment, but Matt caught her movement. "Stay," he said. "Please." Emma wiped carefully at her eyes. "Yes, stay. You're practically family after everything you've done to make this day happen." The simple statement affected Paige more than it should have. She'd coordinated countless weddings, but something about the Harper family had wormed its way into her heart. "I should check on the guests," she demurred. "The photographer will be here in 5 minutes for family photos." Matt's eyes held hers for a meaningful moment. "We'll continue our conversation later." The ceremony unfolded flawlessly against the spectacular Santorini sunset. Emma and Thomas exchanged heartfelt vows as golden light bathed the caldera, creating exactly the magical atmosphere Paige had promised. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Paige found herself unexpectedly emotional, blinking back tears as she watched from her discreet position at the perimeter. The reception transformed the villa's main terrace into an enchanted space with thousands of twinkling lights and cascades of white flowers. As guests dined on exquisite local cuisine and danced under the stars, Paige monitored every detail, ensuring the evening progressed seamlessly. She was so focused on her responsibilities that she didn't notice Matt approaching until he was beside her. "Dance with me," he said, not a question but not quite a command either. Paige hesitated. "I'm working." "Everything's perfect. You've earned a 5-minute break." When she still hesitated, he added, "Consider it my formal thank you for giving Emma her dream wedding." Put that way, Paige couldn't refuse. She allowed him to lead her onto the dance floor just as the band shifted to a slower melody. Matt's hand settled at the small of her back, warm and steady, while the other clasped hers gently. "You've created something remarkable here," he said as they moved together. "Every guest has commented on it." "It was a team effort," Paige demurred. "And you gave me an exceptional budget to work with." "Money doesn't create this kind of atmosphere," Matt disagreed. "That's all you." As they danced, Paige became increasingly aware of their physical connection, his height requiring her to look up to meet his eyes, the subtle cologne he wore, the surprising grace in his movements. "You dance well for a corporate titan," she observed. "Ballroom dancing lessons. Age 16. Mother insisted. His lips quirked. Said no son of hers would shuffle awkwardly at formal events. Smart woman. She was. A shadow of old grief crossed his features. She would have loved you, by the way. The simple statement caught Paige off guard. You can't possibly know that. I can, Matt said with certainty. She valued competence and kindness in equal measure. You embody both. The song ended before Paige could formulate a response. As they separated, Matt retained her hand briefly. "Find me when your duties are finished," he requested. "We still have a conversation to complete." The remainder of the reception passed in a blur of cake cutting, toasts, and the traditional Greek plate smashing that had the guests cheering wildly. By the time Emma and Thomas departed for their honeymoon suite amid a shower of flower petals, it was well past midnight. Paige supervised the beginning of breakdown and cleanup, finally dismissing the last vendors around 2 in the morning. Exhausted but satisfied, she kicked off her heels and made her way to the villa's secluded infinity pool, seeking a moment of peace before sleep. The night was perfect warm with a gentle breeze carrying the scent of jasmine and salt water. Santorini spread below, twinkling lights marking the villages along the caldera's edge. "I thought I might find you here." Paige turned to find Matt approaching, his bow tie undone and jacket discarded, a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses in his hands. "Shouldn't you be asleep?" she asked. "I promised you a conversation." He set the glasses down and expertly opened the champagne. "And Harpers keep their promises." As he handed her a flute, their fingers brushed. The simple contact sent an electric current through Paige that had nothing to do with static electricity and everything to do with the man before her. "To Emma and Thomas," Matt proposed, raising his glass. "To Emma and Thomas," Paige echoed, clinking her glass against his. They sipped in companionable silence, gazing out at the moonlit sea. Finally, Matt spoke. "I meant what I said last night," he began, "about wanting to see where this could go between us." Paige turned to face him fully. "I'm attracted to you, Matt. I won't pretend otherwise." "But our worlds are very different, are they?" He considered her thoughtfully. "We both value family. We both pursue excellence in our work. We both prefer direct communication over games. Those seem like important similarities. You run a global business empire. I coordinate weddings." Paige gestured with her glass. "This private jets and cliffside villas, this isn't my reality." "Maybe it could be," Matt suggested quietly. "Or maybe we could find a middle ground. I'm not asking you to change your life, Paige. I'm asking for a chance to be part of it." The sincerity in his voice was impossible to doubt. Paige felt her reservations weakening. "What exactly are you proposing?" she asked. "Dinner. In New York next week. A proper date with no wedding details to discuss." Matt set his glass down and moved closer. "Just 2 people exploring a connection that seems worth investigating." Put that way, it seemed so simple, so logical, so tempting. "What if it doesn't work?" Paige asked, voicing her deepest fear. "What if we discover we're too different after all?" "Then we'll have some good memories and move forward separately," Matt answered honestly. "But what if it does work?" The question hung between them, filled with possibility. Paige took a deep breath, making her decision. "One dinner," she agreed. "No promises beyond that." Matt's smile was immediate and transformative, lighting his entire face. "I can work with those terms." He moved closer still, his intention clear in his eyes. Paige felt her breath catch as he lifted one hand to gently cup her cheek. "May I?" he asked, his voice lower than before. Rather than answering, Paige closed the remaining distance between them. The kiss began tentatively, a gentle exploration, but quickly deepened as long-suppressed attraction flared between them. Matt's arms encircled her, drawing her closer against the solid warmth of his chest. Paige's hands found their way to his shoulders, then into his hair as the kiss continued. When they finally separated, both slightly breathless, Matt rested his forehead against hers. "If that's how you negotiate all your contracts, Miss Oliver, I'm surprised you're not running your own empire," he murmured. Paige laughed softly. "That was definitely not standard business practice." "Good." Matt's arms remained around her, "because there was nothing standard about it from my perspective either." They stayed by the pool until dawn began lightening the eastern sky, talking about everything and nothing: hopes, fears, favorite books, embarrassing childhood stories. As the first rays of sunshine touched the caldera, painting the white buildings with golden light, Matt walked Paige to her villa suite. "Get some rest," he said, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. "We're wheels up at 4 this afternoon." "One question before you go," Paige said, curiosity finally overwhelming her. "How wealthy are you exactly, just so I know what I'm dealing with?" Matt looked momentarily uncomfortable. "Does it matter?" "Not to how I feel about you," Paige clarified. "But it helps to understand the context of someone's life. You know mine's struggling wedding planner trying to rebuild after her employer went bankrupt. I know almost nothing concrete about yours." He considered her request, then nodded. "Fair enough. Forbes estimated my net worth at just under $3 billion in their last listing, though that's not entirely accurate. Some of our holdings are privately valued." Paige felt her jaw drop. "Billion with a B. I told you it wasn't relevant to Emma's wedding," Matt said with a hint of defensiveness. "It's definitely relevant to that. Maybe this could be your reality comment by the pool," Paige countered, still processing the information. "Only if you let it be." Matt's expression grew serious. "Money changes how people see you, Paige. It's a lens that distorts. I don't want that between us." The vulnerability beneath his words touched her. "I see you, Matt. Overprotective brother, Excel spreadsheet enthusiast, surprisingly good dancer." She smiled. "The bank account is just a detail." Relief visibly washed over him. "That's why he stopped himself, redirecting. "That's what makes you different." After he left, Paige collapsed onto her bed, exhaustion warring with exhilaration. Had she really just agreed to date a billionaire? Had she really just experienced the most compelling kiss of her life against the backdrop of the Aegean Sea? Life had taken a decidedly unexpected turn. Despite her fatigue, sleep proved elusive. Her mind raced with possibilities and questions. By mid-morning, she abandoned the attempt at rest and instead began supervising the final vendor departures and preparing for their return journey. On the flight back to New York, Matt was unexpectedly called to London to handle an emergency with a key acquisition. Their farewells at the private terminal were brief but promising. "Dinner," he reminded her. "Tuesday. I'll send a car." "I can get myself there," Paige insisted. "Of course you can," Matt agreed easily. "But indulge me this once. It would make the next 3 days in London marginally more bearable knowing I've arranged one small detail for when I return." Put that way, how could she refuse? Paige nodded, accepting a brief kiss before Matt boarded his waiting plane, already on the phone addressing the London situation. Back in her modest Brooklyn apartment, reality reasserted itself quickly. Emails from prospective clients required attention. Her half-unpacked suitcase spilled across her bedroom floor, and her refrigerator contained nothing but expired yogurt and questionable leftovers. The glamour of Santorini seemed a world away. Monday morning brought unexpected news. Chloe Harper requested an urgent meeting at Moonlight Weddings and Events. Concerned that something had gone wrong with Emma's wedding, Paige arrived promptly, only to find Chloe beaming. "You're a miracle worker," she declared, hugging Paige enthusiastically. "I've received 17 messages from wedding guests asking if you're available for their events. 17, and 3 are celebrities." Relief washed over Paige. "So this is good news." "It's fantastic news," Chloe confirmed. "I want to offer you a permanent position as our destination wedding specialist. Full benefits, salary plus commission, and creative control over your events." The offer was everything Paige had hoped for: professionally security, prestige, advancement. Yet she hesitated, wondering how this would affect her nascent relationship with Matt. "Would it be a problem?" she asked carefully. "Given my friendship with your brother," Chloe's eyebrow rose. "Friendship? Is that what we're calling it?" Heat rose in Paige's cheeks. "It's complicated." "Not from what I observed in Santorini," Chloe countered with a knowing smile. "But to answer your question, no. Matt has no direct involvement with Moonlight beyond being an initial investor. Our professional connection would be completely separate." The assurance removed Paige's primary concern. "Then yes, I'd love to accept the position." "Excellent." Chloe produced a contract. "I'd legal draw this up hoping you'd say yes. Take it home, review it, and we can discuss any adjustments." That evening, Paige was deep in contract review when her phone chimed with a text from Matt. "London crisis contained. Back tomorrow morning. Car will collect you at 7 p.m. Wear something festive." The message brought an immediate smile to her face. She replied, "Looking forward to it, though festive is dangerously vague guidance." His response came quickly. "Trust your instincts." "They're excellent." Tuesday evening found Paige nervously appraising her reflection. She'd chosen a deep emerald dress that complemented her auburn hair and fair complexion: elegant, but not overly formal, stylish without trying too hard. At precisely 7 p.m., her building's ancient intercom buzzed. The car waiting outside was not the expected town car but a vintage Aston Martin, with Matt himself behind the wheel. He stepped out as she approached, his appreciative gaze making her glad she'd spent the extra time on her appearance. "You look beautiful," he said simply, opening the passenger door. "This isn't exactly what I expected when you said you'd send a car," Paige observed, sliding into the buttery leather seat. Matt grinned as he reclaimed the driver's position. "I decided to deliver it personally. More efficient." "Is that the real reason?" Paige asked as they pulled away from the curb. "No," Matt admitted. "I couldn't wait another hour to see you." The simple honesty of his answer warmed her more than any grand gesture could have. Their destination turned out to be a surprise: not a restaurant, but a private dinner on the rooftop garden of Matt's Manhattan penthouse. A chef prepared their meal at an outdoor kitchen, while a string quartet played softly in the background. Hundreds of twinkling lights transformed the space into something magical, reminiscent of the Santorini wedding but unmistakably more intimate. "This is incredible," Paige breathed as Matt led her to a table positioned to showcase the glittering city panorama. "But not exactly what I expected for dinner in New York. I considered a restaurant," Matt explained, "but every place I thought of seemed too public for what I wanted to say to you." "And what's that?" Paige asked, both thrilled and nervous about his potential answer. Matt took her hand across the table. "That I haven't been able to think about anything but you since we met. That in the middle of billion-dollar negotiations in London, I found myself wondering what made you laugh. That for the first time in my adult life, I'm putting personal happiness ahead of business obligations." "That sounds serious," Paige said softly. "It is serious. I'm serious." Matt's eyes held hers. "I know it's fast. I know we come from different worlds. But I've built my career on recognizing value and potential when others miss it. and what's between us has more potential than anything I've ever encountered." The intensity of his declaration both thrilled and frightened Paige. "I feel it too," she admitted. "But I don't want to be swept away by the fantasy of all this." She gestured at the spectacular setting. "Real relationships need to work in ordinary moments, not just extraordinary ones." "You're absolutely right," Matt agreed immediately, "which is why I have a proposal." "A proposal?" Paige's eyes widened in alarm. "That's definitely too fast," Matt laughed. "Not that kind of proposal, at least not yet." The qualification sent a curious thrill through her. "I'm suggesting we commit to 3 months, real dating in the real world. My schedule, your new job with Chloe, all the complications included. At the end of that time, we evaluate honestly." The suggestion was so practical, so logical, so perfectly Matt that Paige couldn't help smiling. "You want to apply business methodology to our relationship." "I want to be intentional," Matt corrected. "About something that matters deeply to me." Put that way, how could she refuse? 3 months, Paige agreed, with honest evaluation at the end. "Perfect." Matt signaled to the chef to begin serving. "Now tell me about this job offer from my sister." Their dinner stretched late into the night, conversation flowing easily between them. Matt shared the real details of his London emergency, a potential hostile takeover he'd managed to redirect, while Paige described her excitement about building Moonlight's destination wedding division. When Matt finally drove her home, the goodnight kiss they shared at her door held both promise and restraint, a recognition that they were building something worth protecting, worth developing properly. The following weeks brought a new rhythm to Paige's life. Her work with Moonlight flourished as she developed innovative destination packages and consulted with high-profile clients. Meanwhile, her relationship with Matt deepened through deliberately ordinary activities, cooking dinner together at her small apartment, morning runs in Central Park, quiet evenings discussing books they'd both read. Of course, there were extraordinary moments too. A surprise weekend in Paris, because you mentioned wanting to see the Louvre in the spring. A private tour of a prestigious art gallery that had closed to the public for their visit. A helicopter trip to Matt's lake house when Paige mentioned needing a break from the city's pace. Through it all, Matt remained surprisingly grounded despite his wealth. He listened attentively when Paige expressed discomfort with extravagance, scaling back when something felt excessive to her. He took genuine interest in her work, offering insights without attempting to control her decisions. Most importantly, he gradually revealed more of his private self, the insecurities beneath his confident exterior, the lingering grief over his parents, the weight of responsibility he'd carried since early adulthood. 2 months into their agreement, Paige found herself alone in Matt's penthouse, having arrived early for their dinner plans while he concluded an international call. Wandering through the space that had become increasingly familiar, she noticed a door she hadn't seen open before. Curious, she pushed it gently, revealing what was clearly Matt's home office. Unlike the sleek minimalism of his corporate headquarters, this space was warmly personal, bookshelves overflowing with well-read volumes, family photographs arranged on one wall, a worn leather chair that had obviously been selected for comfort rather than style. What caught her attention, however, was a framed document prominently displayed behind his desk, not a business achievement as she might have expected, but a childish drawing. Moving closer, Paige realized it was a crayon picture of 3 stick figures labeled Matt, Chloe, and Emma, with "Family Forever" written in wobbly letters across the top. "Emma drew that the week after our parents died." Matt's voice from the doorway startled her. Paige turned, embarrassed at being caught snooping. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have, it's fine," he assured her, crossing to stand beside her. "I'm glad you found it actually. It's beautiful," Paige said softly, "that you've kept it all these years. It's my most valuable possession." Matt's voice held quiet certainty. Emma was devastated, barely speaking to anyone. Then one night she slipped this under my door with a note saying she knew I'd take care of them forever. His expression grew distant with memory. "That's when I sold my first startup and used the proceeds to launch Harper Global. I needed to ensure I could fulfill that promise." The simple story revealed more about Matt's character than 1,000 business profiles ever could. Impulsively, Paige reached for his hand, threading her fingers through his. "You're an extraordinary man, Matthew Harper." He looked down at their joined hands, then met her eyes with an intensity that made her breath catch. "I love you, Paige." The declaration, though not entirely unexpected after 2 months together, still caught her off guard with its directness. Matt continued before she could respond. "I wasn't planning to say that tonight. We still have 3 weeks in our agreed timeline." A self-deprecating smile crossed his face. "But efficiency has always been my strong suit." "Matt, you don't need to say it back," he interrupted. "I just needed you to know. Transparency in negotiations, as it were." Paige laughed softly at his business terminology, even as her heart raced with the significance of the moment. "Always the businessman." "Not always," he corrected, pulling her gently closer. "Not with you." As their lips met, Paige realized with sudden clarity that she'd crossed a threshold without even noticing, from attraction to affection to something far deeper. When they separated, the words came naturally. "I love you too." The surprise and joy that transformed Matt's expression was worth any uncertainty she might have felt about the declaration's timing. "Well," he said after a moment, his voice slightly unsteady, "I believe this qualifies as successfully completing our 3-month assessment ahead of schedule." "Does this mean we're moving to the next phase?" Paige teased. "If you're amenable," Matt replied, his formal phrasing belied by the warmth in his eyes. "I find myself highly motivated to proceed." The following weeks brought both challenge and deepening connection. Paige's career flourished as Moonlight Weddings expanded their destination offerings, requiring increasing international travel. Matt's business demands similarly intensified with a major acquisition in Asia. Yet somehow, they made it work, aligning schedules when possible, creating quality time amid the chaos, and when separation was inevitable, connecting through thoughtful messages and late-night calls. 4 months into their relationship, Emma and Thomas returned from their extended honeymoon, eager to reconnect with family. A welcome home dinner at Matt's penthouse brought the siblings together along with Paige and Thomas. "I still can't believe you two got together because of our wedding," Emma marveled as they enjoyed dessert on the terrace. "Best unplanned wedding outcome ever." "Not entirely unplanned," Matt admitted, sharing a meaningful glance with Chloe that caught Paige's attention. "What does that mean?" she asked suspiciously. Chloe laughed. "Well, let's just say when our regular planner broke her leg, I might have specifically sought out someone I thought would challenge my workaholic brother." "You orchestrated this?" Paige looked between the siblings in disbelief. "Not the outcome," Matt clarified. "Just the introduction. The rest was entirely organic." "We were tired of seeing him alone," Emma explained. "And after reviewing your portfolio, Chloe thought you might be just stubborn and competent enough to stand up to him." "I'm sitting right here," Matt protested mildly. "And you're welcome," Chloe retorted. "Besides, it worked, didn't it?" Looking at Paige's mock outraged expression, Matt couldn't help laughing. "Impeccably." Later that night, after the others had departed, Paige confronted Matt in the kitchen as they loaded the dishwasher together, a domestic task he'd initially been hopeless at, but now managed competently. "Were you in on their matchmaking scheme?" she demanded, though her tone lacked real anger. "Absolutely not," Matt assured her, closing the dishwasher and turning to face her. "Though I can't exactly complain about the results." Paige narrowed her eyes playfully. "I'm not sure how I feel about being manipulated into meeting you." "Would it help if I told you I fell for you the moment you contradicted me during that first conference call?" Matt pulled her closer. "Your complete disregard for my authority was surprisingly attractive." "You hit it well," Paige observed. "I thought you found me annoying." "Challenging," Matt corrected. "There's a difference." As they prepared for bed, Paige now keeping several drawers of belongings at his penthouse, just as he maintained space in her Brooklyn apartment, she found herself reflecting on the unexpected journey of the past months. From professional adversaries to reluctant collaborators to partners in every sense, their path had been anything but conventional. "What are you thinking about?" Matt asked, noticing her thoughtful expression as they settled into bed. "How different my life is now compared to 6 months ago," Paige admitted. "Sometimes it feels surreal. In good ways, I hope." "Mostly," she assured him. "Though I still feel strange when your staff calls me Miss Oliver with that deferential tone." Matt smiled. "They respect you." "Not because of me, but because you've earned it." "Maybe," Paige conceded. "But I'm still the same person I was before, just a wedding planner with big dreams and a small apartment." "You were never just anything," Matt said seriously. "That's what I saw from the beginning." His unwavering belief in her worth, separate from their relationship, was perhaps the most precious gift he'd given her. Paige curled closer against him, grateful for the solid warmth of his presence. "I have to go to Singapore next week," Matt said after a comfortable silence. "The Meridian acquisition is at a critical stage." "I know," Paige replied. She'd grown accustomed to his travel schedule, just as he'd adjusted to hers. "I'll be in Miami for that celebrity wedding consultation anyway." "Come to Singapore afterward," Matt suggested. "We could take a few days in Bali after my meetings conclude. You mentioned wanting to explore potential wedding venues there." The seamless way he integrated her professional interests with their personal time together still delighted her. "That sounds perfect." Life settled into a pattern that somehow balanced stability with excitement. Paige's career thrived as she developed Moonlight's international reputation, while Matt continued building Harper Global, though with a new emphasis on work-life balance that surprised his executive team. They maintained both the penthouse and Paige's Brooklyn apartment, the former for its convenience to their offices, the latter for its neighborhood charm and the normalcy it represented. Matt learned to navigate the subway system, an anthropological study in urban efficiency deficiencies. He declared after his first rush hour experience, while Paige grew comfortable in the rarefied world of high finance and luxury that constituted much of Matt's life. 6 months into their relationship, Matt suggested a weekend at his lake house to celebrate. Paige readily agreed, looking forward to the peaceful retreat where they'd spent some of their most relaxed moments together. When Matt's helicopter landed on the private pad Friday evening, however, Paige was surprised to find the normally secluded property transformed. Twinkling lights illuminated the path from the helipad to the house, and as they approached, she noticed dozens of lanterns floating on the lake's surface. "What's all this?" she asked, squeezing his hand. "A proper celebration," Matt replied enigmatically. 6 months deserves recognition." Inside, rather than the casual comfort she expected, Paige found the great room arranged for an intimate dinner. A private chef nodded respectfully as they entered, returning to his preparations at the open kitchen. "This is beautiful," Paige said, taking in the elegant setting, "but hardly necessary for a 6-month anniversary. Perhaps I wanted to mark the occasion properly." Matt guided her to the wall of windows overlooking the illuminated lake. "This feels significant to me." Something in his tone made Paige study him more carefully. "You're nervous," she realized with surprise. "Why?" Instead of answering directly, Matt took both her hands in his. "Do you remember our 3-month assessment?" Paige smiled at the memory. "Of course. We completed it ahead of schedule." "Efficiency has its advantages," Matt agreed. "It allows us to move forward on accelerated timelines when the data supports it." "Are you really using business terminology right now?" Paige teased. "Old habits," Matt admitted with a self-deprecating smile. "What I'm trying to say, perhaps inelegantly, is that I've collected sufficient evidence to make an informed decision about our future." Before Paige could respond, he reached into his pocket and lowered himself to one knee, still holding her hand. "Matt," she breathed, her heart suddenly racing. "Paige Oliver," he began, his voice steady despite the vulnerability in his eyes. "You walked into my life during my sister's wedding preparations and proceeded to challenge every assumption I'd made about what matters most. You've shown me that spreadsheets can't quantify happiness, that control is sometimes best relinquished, and that the most valuable assets aren't found on any balance sheet." He opened a small velvet box to reveal a stunning emerald ring surrounded by diamonds. "I love you more than I thought possible. Would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife?" Tears filled Paige's eyes as the magnitude of the moment washed over her. This brilliant, complicated man who commanded boardrooms and built financial empires was looking up at her with unguarded hope, offering her his heart and future with complete sincerity. "Yes," she whispered, then more firmly, "Yes, absolutely yes." Joy transformed Matt's expression as he slipped the ring onto her finger. When he stood, Paige threw her arms around his neck, holding him tightly as the significance of their commitment settled over her. "I love you," she murmured against his shoulder. "So much." Later that evening, after celebrating with champagne and the chef's exquisite dinner, they sat on the dock watching the lanterns bobbing gently on the dark water. "There's one question I've been afraid to ask," Paige admitted, her head resting against Matt's shoulder. "You can ask me anything," he assured her, "especially now. What happens to my career after we're married?" The question had lingered in her mind despite her joy. "I've worked so hard to build it." "Whatever you want happens," Matt answered simply. "I would never ask you to give up something that fulfills you, even if it means weeks apart sometimes, even when we have a family eventually, even then." Matt turned to face her fully. "We'll find solutions together like we always do. Flexible schedules, family travel when possible, whatever works for us. I didn't fall in love with you to change you, Paige. I fell in love with exactly who you are." The sincerity in his voice dissolved her concerns. "When did you get so wise about relationships?" she teased. "I have excellent teachers," Matt replied, pulling her closer. "A fiancé who doesn't let me hide behind business jargon, sisters who call me out when I'm being stubborn, and the memory of parents who showed me what partnership really means." 1 year to the day after Emma's Santorini wedding, Paige and Matt exchanged vows on the same scenic terrace where they'd first danced together. The ceremony was intimate family and close friends, only with Emma serving as matron of honor and Thomas as best man. Unlike the lavish production Paige had orchestrated for Emma, her own wedding reflected the balance she and Matt had found between his world and hers, elegant but relaxed, luxurious in its setting but simple in its execution, with personal touches that mattered more than extravagance. As they recited vows they'd written themselves, Paige marveled at the journey that had brought them to this moment. From professional adversaries to reluctant collaborators to devoted partners, their path had been unexpected but perfect in its own way. "I never planned on you," she told Matt, holding his hands as the Aegean stretched endlessly blue behind them. "You weren't in my career strategy or my 5-year plan. But you've become the center around which everything else revolves, not because you demanded that place, but because you earned it through your unwavering support, your genuine respect for my dreams, and your willingness to build something new with me rather than asking me to fit into a predetermined role." When it was Matt's turn, his customary eloquence momentarily faltered. "I spent years believing that success meant control, predictability, and independence," he began. "Then you coordinated my sister's wedding and systematically dismantled every defense I'd built. You showed me that true success isn't measured in acquisitions or assets, but in moments of authentic connection." His voice grew husky with emotion. "You make me happier than I ever thought possible, Paige Oliver, and I promise to spend every day trying to give you the same gift." As they were pronounced husband and wife against the backdrop of a perfect Santorini sunset, Paige reflected on the extraordinary chain of events that had brought them together: a desperate job interview, a skeptical billionaire, and a destination wedding that had ultimately led to her own happily ever after. In the end, she realized, the most valuable destination hadn't been Santorini at all, but the life she and Matt were now beginning together, a journey more exciting than any wedding she'd ever planned.